trying to get through this.
Easy for listening. I wasn't able to do it.
Easy for dancing.
I'm not a great lover of cats. That's my fear.
You're a disgrace, you are.
Not me. That's my fear.
You're a disgrace, you are.
Hello and welcome back to One-on-One Shadowboxing. Have your say. Our studio guest today is Aaron. Aaron is one of the co-founders of Expressival. Expressival is coming up in the second year now, in a row. Am I right?
It's actually its fifth year.
Fifth year?
It's its second year running in that same space on a Saturday in Forest Place.
So how did it start 5 years ago?
So the way it started 5 years ago is my auntie was working at a charity called Manor. She's a volunteer, and I'd just been speaking with her a lot about the issue of homelessness in Perth, and I wanted to do something. So we organised a small fundraising event. We probably had about 80 or 90 people come along.
Yes.
And put on some music for people and had some conversations about homelessness and poverty in WA. And everyone thought it was a great event, so we decided we'd keep running it, and each year it's grown and
Became an event.
and it's become a big festival now.
And how the name Expressival came about?
That was just
Is it yours or?
yeah, it was just a brainstorming session, and it just seemed to fit with what our mission was, which was to use music and art and giving people an opportunity to express themselves and express their views through the medium of a music and arts festival. So it just seemed to fit together.
So it seems to me this is a free event coming up in October. What's the date, the time, and where is the festival?
Okay, so it's coming up on the 22nd of October.
Yes.
It'll be running from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and it's running at Forest Place in the city.
And it's free.
It's definitely free.
Free to say, it's free.
It's free to say it's free.
And what's happening during the day in the festival? How many events are on the stage? Is it staged? It is?
Yeah, it's a staged event. So we've got a number of musicians and performers that'll be. So there's 11 performance groups. So we have a range from Philip Wally Stack, Young Robin. Tashi is a young folk singer. We've got a number of school choirs and groups, ensembles that'll be down there playing on the day. We've also got some samba performances as well. So there's a real mix of entertainment musically. Then we also have been working with one of our partners, Foundation Housing, who are a social housing company, and they're really committed to promoting the well-being of their residents. So we've been working with them to engage their residents in an art project. So we'll have a number
in the same place, in the same day?
In the same place.
Yes.
So there'll be a big art installment. There'll be a number of collaborative art pieces. It's all about social housing residents, really having an opportunity to share their story in the community, and also to...
So it's going to be a collective painting or
Yeah,
paint?
there'll be a collective painting. There'll be a couple of individual works there because there are some really amazing artists that have been living in some of the foundation housing tenancies. So it's really... I've been blown away about the level of work that they produce, and so we've created this opportunity for them to share their gifts and to promote some pride amongst social housing residents.
Who are the other partners of the festival?
So we work closely with St Vincent de Paul Society.
What are they doing there?
So they've been providing us a lot of support for the event, a lot of back-end support. We are also working with them to involve some of their clients. They work with about 3,000 young people who have experienced homelessness. We're working with the Australian Red Cross. They run a program called Save a Mate, which is really about looking out for your mates and if you see that they need help, seeing what you can do to help them out. We've been working with a group called Welcome to Australia, which is really about opening up the space and encouraging new migrant communities to get involved in community activities like this. And it's also about welcoming them to Australia. And then we've also been working quite closely with ECU. I told you that we have been working with some of their design students and some Year 9 students from Swanview High School to run a collaborative design workshop where the students have looked at some of the issues around poverty and looked at ways that they could create a campaign that would engage young people around WA in taking actions to alleviate poverty.
Why is the focus in the young people?
Young people that are born into this situation where they're born into a family living below the poverty line, it provides a massive challenge for them. And I see them as the future leadership. And so I think it's important to partner with them to look at how we can solve some of these issues.
I think the aim of that festival, the X Festival, is not to solve the problem in Perth of poverty, all aspects of it, but just to communicate about it and voice it. So do you planning to have some publications, or how is your activity going on online? Or online is something which could not be used as much effectively when you working with people?
That's why we have a partnership approach with this kind of event, and why we work with a number of those organisations. So we find ourselves during Anti-Poverty Week as a real channel for people to have these conversations, and then a part of what we do is also on the day to connect people with opportunities to volunteer, with opportunities to maybe seek support, with opportunities to, I guess, get involved with some of these groups that are doing great work in the community.
Have you got any experience or any insight of how poverty affects, people, retired people, pensioners?
36% of pensioners in Australia live below the poverty line.
Of the whole number of pensioners from the whole?
Yeah, well, that's the
official
figure
statistics.
the figure that I've seen, and
which is a very high figure.
yeah,
It's almost 40%, which is very high. So
Yes,
living
it
on
is.
poverty line or underneath, that's not very happy ending of life.
no, it's not, and I think it's really.
But what's the special effect or specific effect in older people?
I think one of the first things that people see is, as you get older, there's a lot more reliance on medical services and those kind of things. So it makes it very difficult to afford those kind of things. I know, speaking with a few people at different church groups, I've found that many of the older people in society that are living below the poverty line, they skimp on things like heating bills, and they look at ways to save, and it makes their life quite uncomfortable. And I think as people that have contributed to our society, I think it's important for us to support and to connect and to really make sure that people who have really made a massive impact on building Australia to what it is today, that we as a community support them.
Poverty is very much dramatically affect people in retirement, and it's almost 40% of retired people living under poverty line. How does it specifically affect them with health and healthcare?
If you've got medications and you need doctor's appointment, the Medicare levies have not risen for a number of years, and I think it does cost money to get all the support that particularly elderly people need to maintain their health. If you're in a situation where you're living below the poverty line, one of the things that you always have to face is you've got to weigh up what you can afford. You've often got to make choices between things like medical expenses and
Food.
And I don't think that people should have to make a choice between their health and having food on the table.
It should not be the case in Australia, but this is the case for 40%, at least for 40% of our retirees, which is not a nice picture we are painting on our country. What do you think what your future is? I heard you are studying now. Tell us about why you got the interest in the young people and education.
I'm about to start studying to become a school teacher, and one of the things that I see is that education, in particular, with our young people, is the best way to help people get themselves out of that cycle of poverty. So I'm really committed to working with young people.
Where are you studying for your degree? Becoming a teacher, yes.
So I'm about to start studying at Deakin University, and I've just been accepted into a graduate program with Teach for Australia.
What is that program? How does it work?
Teach for Australia is a program that has been set up to encourage leaders from backgrounds that are not in the education system to encourage them to take up teaching. because one of the things that they've seen is that the teacher makes a very big difference to a child's education. I'm not saying that there's not great educators in the system. I know a number of teachers that are already teaching, and that's a big reason why I wanted to take it up, because I see the kind of impact they make on young people's lives.
Aaron, how do you see yourself in 5 years' time and your cause of poverty and fighting against that?
I see myself being a teacher in 5 years' time, and I particularly would love to be working with young people, particularly around entrepreneurial education and design thinking, and looking at how young people can really prepare themselves the best for society that has is so rapidly moving and has so much technology in it. So
creativity is a must for you.
Yeah, it's a very important part of what we've done here, and what I like to focus on in my life.
Aaron, thank you very much for being a guest on Have Your Say one-on-one shadowboxing. Don't forget, next week, same time, same channel. Have Your Say.
Easy for listening, almost able to do it.